What's up, guys? So, with the new bot out, I thought I would do a guide video and kind of explain how it works to everybody. So, the first thing you're going to do is come down to bot setup, and you'll start off on this groups tab. And so, this is basically like you telling it how to build the groups. So like for caster DPS group, this is the slot priority order. So like for slot one, it's going to try and pick a healer. If it doesn't get a healer, it'll fall back to other casters. For slot two, it's going to try and pick a wizard. If it doesn't find a wizard, it'll look for a necro, and so on and so forth. So this is just the priority order for each slot in each group type. And so what the bot's algorithm is going to do is it's going to try to make a caster group, it's going to try to make a melee DPS group, it's going to try to make a tank group, and whichever one has the highest scores is what it's going to keep. And it's just going to do that until it runs out of members. And so yeah, you'll want to reorder these according to like your own comp and your own needs. One problem, so like the default bot settings are based on ROF optimal comp. So like a classic guild doesn't have a beast lord or a berserker yet, and so a berserker would be like in the default settings. A berserker will be in one of the top slots since they're like a super good ADPS later. But they don't exist in classic, so that's something you'd want to change. And I mean, even with even if your era is a later era with all those classes, you know, the meta changes. Like early on, you want a beast lord in caster groups so they can give mana to your healers, and later on they turn into a really good melee ADPS. And so it's going to depend on your era, which varies expansion by expansion, especially like in the first half of the game. And even your own raid comp, you'll want to tune this to your own raid comp. So this is a Teak guild, and so like their optimal melee group is just healer, bard, bunch of monks, because that's the meta. And then like you have if it runs out of monks, it'll look for a rogue or a ranger, and so on. But yeah, the big thing is this is the order it is going to fill these group slots in. So this is group slot 1, it's going to look for a healer. Group slot 2, it wants a bard. Group slot 3, it wants a monk. And the further down the list it goes, the worse the group score is going to get, and the less likely that group is going to be built. A couple little helper functions to help you manage this. There is this copy slot button, and that'll take the priorities from slot 1 and copy it to slot 2 if I wanted to make this identical to that. And this will swap group slot 1 with group slot 2. I can do that because that's easy to undo. And what that allows you to do is, how I have this set up is like the important classes are early, and I want to have an unimportant slot last, so that say you want to build groups of 5 because you're going to do some called heroes, and you want to leave room for a mage, you can go like this, and now it's a five slot group. And the cool part is now you get done and you turn it back to 6, and this is the same 6 slot as it used to be because these stay saved. So yeah, this group size tells the bot how big to build your groups, and you can change that at will, and it'll save everything. Say you want these to be different. I think these are the default, but if you want them to be different, you can add new groups here, you can delete groups there. And yeah, that's probably everything you need to know about this tab. You're definitely going to want to like play around with it and build groups. So like when you go to build your groups, there is this option right here, and what this does is it ignores some of the later balancing stuff that happens. So it'll ignore these raid roles and relationships and just give you an idea of what the bot is doing. So like raid roles and relationships will do some sorting of the groups, but what's nice about this is, so yeah, like these will be your best groups will come first, and then as it starts having to make harder decisions, those groups will come later. So your best groups will be in here. And really what you want to do, so by default, if you give it no input, it does a 54-man raid. So really what you want to do is do something like this. So it's one raid, and don't give it a max num splits. And now we didn't spit out two splits, and the best groups are at the top, and as it goes to the bottom, like these groups down here will be most indicative of priorities that you need to change in the bot setup to get your groups to line up how you want them to. But yeah, it's a lot more intuitive than it used to be. It's literally just a priority for each slot. So yeah, I mean, you can fine tune it as much as you want and get it how you like it. So after you got the priorities done, you're going to want to probably do raid roles. And what this is you can make these custom. I think I have these two by default, but you can add more. You can delete them if you want to. And what this does is it's going to take like the DKP officer raid role, and it's going to spread it evenly among the raids. Anyone in these, before it does anything other than like, before it does anything, it's going to split these people among the raids. So like these two people, as long as there's a split, they will never be in the same raid because they're DKP officers. If there's two raid splits and two DKP officers, it's going to put one in one and one in the other. If there's three, it'll put one in one in the other, then it'll run out. If there's 5 DKP officers and 2 raid splits, it'll put them in alphabetical order, raid 1, raid 2, raid 3, and then go back and start at the beginning and put the 4th and 5th DKP officers. So yeah, it's alphabetical, and so you'll get consistent raid leader X in raid 1, raid leader Y in raid 2. That'll be somewhat consistent. Same with, yeah. So yeah, raid roles, just spread these people evenly among the raids. That's pretty easy. To add people to that, you do like this. And it gives, you just drag them over. You can search for their name. You've got their rank in the guild right here. So that's how raid roles work. And relationships, so like let's say you have a married couple and they want to always be in the same group. You add a group scope relationship, and that ensures that they will always be in the same group. If you have some people you always want in the same raid, then you put them in a relationship in a raid. Same as before, drag and drop, and delete relationships over here. And yeah, add relationships, delete relationships. You've got raid scope, they get put in the same raid. Group scope, they go in the same group. I mean, it's a nice feature. You don't want to overuse it though, because it takes priority over like everything. Same with the raid roles. It's gonna anyone who gets placed by one of these is going to be locked, and the rest of the raid gets built around them. So like they're not valid targets for like skill swaps or flag swaps. They're locked to where they are. So if you overuse it, it might screw up your group comp, but I mean, it's obviously not something you have a ton of anyways. And so yeah, building the groups around them should be fine, as long as you don't like try putting everyone in one of these things for whatever reason. It'll work the way it should. And so the last thing is this player skill feature. So everyone is assumed to be a skill 10 unless otherwise specified. So you drag them over to here. Like say you have a bunch of inactive people, they can go in 0. And yeah, so what this is going to do is after it does raid roles, relationships, and then balances flags between the raids, it's going to balance the flag players. What this does is for each class, it's going to try and make their skill levels as similar as possible. So like if you say you have 2 really bad clerics and you definitely don't want them in the same raid, You give them a low skill score, and they will never be in the same raid split. So I have a little helper function for this, and what this is going to do is it's just going to set a bunch of random skills for everyone who's in the raid right now. And yeah, so it's gonna it's gonna go through each class in the raid, and it's gonna ignore boxes. It's only gonna look at the mains when it swaps. For it to be a valid swap, the players have to have like the same comp. So like the mains need to be the same class, and they need to have the same classes of boxes, because you don't want the class comp of the raid getting screwed up. They have to, between the main and the boxes, they have to represent the same number of flags, because you don't want the flag balancing getting screwed up. So it's going to go through, and for every valid swap, it's going to say, okay, here's all the clerics and all of their skills. I'm going to average them for each raid, look at the averages for each raid, and say, can I improve it? And then if you can improve it, it'll do a swap, and it just does that until it runs out of swaps. It's a pretty cool algorithm. It guarantees that you will not be able to improve the class averages with a single swap, which is, I mean, very good, way better than anything you could do by hand. But it's not perfect, because the perfect solution would basically require computing every single possible combination, and it could take hours, days, weeks, who knows. It's what's called an NP hard problem. There's no known fast solution to it. So basically what I end up doing is just checking every swap until it runs out of swaps. So like we end up with a really good approximation of the best answer, but it is possible that you could improve it, but it is impossible that you improve it with a single swap. So yeah, good enough. In my test runs, I would assign like 200 test raiders, a bunch of random skills, and the variance would be anywhere from 0 to 1 skill point. So yeah, it's pretty good. Not as good as it could be, but as good as it could be would take an unreasonable amount of time to calculate. Anyways, so yeah, we've got skills set up, and now it's time to actually build the raids. So I'm not gonna. Oh, that's unlocked. So this lock button lets members come to this page, and if you lock it, they'll get kicked out. Sent check-in. But yeah, so here, let's just try it like normal. So we don't check. Now that I want the raid roles and relationships to be observed, I'm not going to check this, and leaving these blank defaults to raid size of 54. So we got some splits. So on this summary page, officers will see the skill average. Members do not see this. So yeah, I mean, they were just assigned a bunch of random skill points. So like here you can see there's only one beast lord in each split, and there's a big variance because there's one got assigned to 1 and one got assigned to 10. But like here for the bards, you had 5 of them, and they came out pretty close. Clerics came out pretty close skill wise. Druids, enchanters are off by 1.5. And yeah, that's just a factor of random numbers and small amount of raiders. But yeah, so you can see it works out pretty well. These player skills are all about as close to each other as they can be. What's going on here? Oh, this raid got a paladin and the other one didn't, because there aren't any paladins in the raid. So yeah, here the rangers came out pretty close. Rogues, it's only 2 rogues, so there's no swaps there. Shadow Knights, they came out pretty close to each other. But yeah, so that's your skill balancing. You can see the flags are within 1 of each other. That's because the flags were balanced first. All the class counts are pretty similar to one another. And yeah, so that's everything you need to build the groups. One thing I should mention is actually all the things you can do on this raid groups page now. So you can output output your attendance, and that'll give you something pastable. And so because this guy's in late check-in, he won't get included in building the bot, building the raid groups, or in bot DKP ticks. So what you can do is grab them. Everything's drag and drop here. Grab him, drop him on top of himself, and now I can move him to the bench. Now that he's on the bench, he will get picked up by bot ticks. If I took a bot tick right now, he would now be included. And so I can drag him. Let's see if I can drag him into raid 1 from here. Great, I can. Okay, so if you want to swap these, you can. If you want to delete a raid, you just drop it on top of itself, and you can delete a raid. Everyone will get benched. So now, because he's not in late anymore, he's going to get included in the build and all the flag balancing and all the skill swaps and all that. Let's see. Okay, so this all raids tab is raid 1, raid 2. These groups can be swapped by swapping, by dragging and dropping on top of the group. Players can be swapped the same way. Unflagged players are in blue. Everyone else is in black. If I want to take this person and move him to raid 2, I can do it like this. I can drag him from here and drag him into raid 2. Let's say you want to manually build the groups. You can add a new group there. If I want to now delete this group, I just drag it, drop it on top of itself, delete the group. And let's see. So we've got, so I even from here, I can drop a player on top of themselves. I can kick them from the raid. I can stick them in late so they don't get picked up by bot ticks, or I can bench them and put someone else in if for whatever reason you want to. I think that's everything. You can delete raids from here as well. You can create new raids. So like if you wanna build the groups manually, what you can do is just create a raid here, say raid size 54. So now we have 2 raids, and if you want to, you can drag and drop, make them, create the groups manually. If any of these people have boxes, which it doesn't look like they do since this was a GDKP raid. If they had boxes, it would be listed with the box here. Let's see if I can show that real quick. So I joined late. Oh, and I went to the bench since there's no one in raids yet. If there had been people in raids, it would have sent me to late check-in instead. But here you can see, here's a wizard with a barred box. If you're placing these groups manually. And yeah, I mean, it's not as anywhere near as restrictive as the old bot. You can do everything manually if you want to, or you can do, I mean, this covers pretty much everything you would consider in building raids for splits. You've got here, you can tell it how to build your groups and customize this as much as you want to. You've got the raid roles to spread your DKP officers and raid leaders evenly among the splits. You've got relationships, like if people know each other in real life, or you have a husband and a wife who always want to be in the same group, it'll handle that. If you want to raid all your raiders and assign every one of them a skill value, it will build based on skill better than a person could. That's just a matter of, did you rate them accurately? And even if you don't want to assign every raider a skill, if you just want to like have a couple players who are really bad and you want to make sure they don't end up in the same split, then you just give them a skill. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna with real comp and real numbers, not just the random numbers like I assigned to the currently checked in. You'll it'll build them it'll build them better than a person can for sure. Um, I mean, to do all these skill swaps, it probably did like 10,000 swaps to check and find what is the absolute best variance that it can achieve between the raids for each class. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I hope this video helps people figure out how to use it, and yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions or if you have any improvements that you'd like to see. Thanks a lot.